Good morning, good morning, good morning. This morning I want to talk about how to start a business in 2025. As the Legacy CPA, I realized that there are a lot of people who are exiting their jobs, losing their jobs at a faster pace. And with the big beautiful bill and some of the tax cuts that are available in the US, I wanted to spend some time this morning talking about how to start a legitimate business in 2025. So if you have questions, it's 6:30 a.m. I know it's early. You're probably getting ready for work if you still have a corporate job. Drop your questions in the comments because we are going to get into it this morning, okay? Why should you listen to me? I am Renisha. I am professionally known as the Legacy CPA, and I help small businesses who are looking to become family offices. I will describe what a family office is here in a second. Who are looking to become family offices in 2025 and learn how to start, scale, and ultimately retire and succeed in business. All right. And succeed is the root word for succession. And you can have a succession plan that is 3 different flavors. So today I'm going to talk about how to start a business, how to scale a business, and how to succeed in business. All right. So let's get into it. Drop your questions in the comments. Before I get started, I want to know who I have on live. Drop a 1 in the comments if you are a full-time entrepreneur. Drop a 2 in the comments if you are a corporate girly who is doubling as an entrepreneur at night. So maybe you go to your job from 9 to 5 and then from 5 to 9 you're actually working, but I want to see who's all in the room. All right. So how do you start a business in 2025? How do you start a business in 2025? Nothing much has changed about starting a business on paper in 2025, but I need to spit this gum out. Give me a second. All right. There is nothing different about how to start a business in 2025 on paper. So we'll talk about paper businesses. What do you have to do to register the business? What do you have to do to keep anonymity in the business? And then we're going to shift into how to scale that business, right? So how do you start that business on paper in 2025? It depends on what state you're located in. I am licensed to support business owners across all 50 states. I'm specifically located in Georgia. So I'm going to give the example of Georgia businesses, and you can see if this is the same practice based on Secretary of State rules for your state. I know Delaware is a little bit different because you can start anonymous businesses without needing an attorney, or maybe you need an attorney, but we're going to go through Georgia specific examples. So if you're in Georgia, you would go to the Secretary of State to register your business. They have a portal where you can have a user ID and password. And option 1 is you register your business yourself. In order to register your business yourself, you're going to have to do one thing before going to the Secretary of State. You need to find an office location that you want to house your business. And I do air quotes because housing your business can either be in like a home studio like I have, but if you house your business in a home studio like I have, you're going to have to relinquish your business address, okay? And that business address would be your home address, and you don't want your home address public. So instead of having a home office address, I also have an office address in downtown Atlanta so that when I take clients, I can go to that office and have an office set up for them to come to that office address. So Regis is that office address. So you would go to Regis and get an office that you can travel away from home, and that would be your office address that you would secure before you go to the Secretary of State. Regis is a nationwide practice for you to secure an office address. You don't want to use UPS, you don't want to use FedEx, because those are remote offices that is a PO box address, and while it holds a street address, it is not a physical location for you to take clients, all right? If you are like a restaurant or stuff like that, restaurant, it has a physical location, so you wouldn't worry about a corporate office. Maybe you would for you to, negotiate deals or whatever. But if you want to use a corporate office address, go to Regis. There are other places that you can get it from, but the first step is securing an office location. Once you secure an office location, then you're going to go to the Secretary of State to register your business yourself. And when you go to the Secretary of State to register your business yourself, you're going to create a username and a user ID to register the business. All right? Once you register the business, the second step is to go to the IRS website and do the same thing. Okay? You need to secure an EIN. Once you secure an EIN, you have a legitimate business on paper. Drop a 1 in the comments if you followed and you picked up what I put down. So in 2025, I'm using Georgia as a location. You want to secure your corporate office address first, register the business with the Secretary of State, and then go to irs.gov to secure your EIN. That is how you register your business on paper in 2025. Okay? 3 simple steps. Corporate office address, Secretary of State in Georgia to register the business. Use your corporate office address, not your home address. And then you're going to go to the irs.gov to secure your EIN. The same information that is on your Secretary of State for that LLC. We're going to start an LLC. We ain't going to get fancy. We're not going to select partnership. We're not going to select C Corp on that Secretary of State government document. We're going to select LLC. And then we're going to go to irs.gov and select the same thing for LLC, disregarded entity, at the federal level. All right? Secure office address, register legally with the state, and then we're going to go federally to register federally. All right. Those are the 3 simple steps. It will take as little as 7 days to do this because it takes the state 7 days, 7 to 10 business days to review and approve everything. And then the federal documentation is instantaneously, right? It's instant. Once you log on, you're going to get your EIN at the end of those details that you put in, okay? You're going to save that SS4 document. That's the 4th step. You're going to save that SS4 document because it is going to have your EIN letter. You're going to save it digitally. And you're going to save it physically, okay? You don't want to lose the SS4 documentation. That's what you're going to use for taxes. It's your social security number. It's your social security number for business. So you don't want to lose it. It tells you if you have payroll taxes, right? So you don't want to lose that SS4 document. Capiche? Drop a letter A in the comments if you followed what I said, okay? That's how to start a business on paper in 2025. Okay. Once you start the business on paper in 2025, that next level is going to be for you to grow the business. Grow the business before scaling the business. Growth happens at the revenue level. So before we even get into growth versus scaling, we need to talk about the profit and loss statement from top to bottom. From top to bottom. You got revenue and you got profit at the bottom. And you have certain flavors of profit in between. So at the top, you got revenue. At the bottom, you got net profit. And as you move down, you got cost of goods sold. You got contribution margin, fixed expenses, to operating margin, to other expenses and other income, to net margin and net profit. That's how the income statement flows, okay? And when you have this income statement and it flows, you basically want to see a positive number at the top and a positive number at the bottom. When you have a positive number at the top, you can have some negative stuff, right? But if you have a positive number at the top and a positive number at the bottom, that's called being in black, okay? Being in black, all right? If you have a positive number at the top and a negative number at the bottom, that's called being in red, okay? Depending on the type of industry you are in, from top to bottom, if you are in the red, that might mean a good thing, right? You put more money in the business than you actually got out of the business, and you are in infant stage, right? If you got money in the black at the top, money in the black at the bottom, that means a good thing. That means you are in a scaling phase, okay? So first we have to grow the business revenue-wise before we can get in a scaling phase, which is monitoring our expenses in the middle, right? Before we get in the black. Okay. That first year, you may be in the red because you are going to have organization expenses before you earn revenue. And those organization expenses are going to be those legal fees, those CPA fees, so your advisory fees, if that's your business, as Auntie Tab would say, and inventory, if you need to buy inventory, marketing expenses, right? Organization and startup costs is going to be the number one criteria that you're going to have to start the business, and you're limited to $10,000. $5,000 for organization, $5,000 for startup costs, okay? You're limited to $10,000 to spend in the business to start the business, to start and organize the business, okay? So that first year, you might have $10,000. If you go over $10,000, the additional, that one extra dollar has to be written off over 15 years for the business, okay? So you don't want to go $1 over. If you go $5,000 over, that $5,000 is going to have to be written off over 15 years, okay, when you start the business, all right? So we limit our organization and startup cost to $10,000 so that we can take that write-off in that first year. And if you decide to start the business in December and spend $10,000, guess what? That $10,000 can be written off during that tax season, okay? Okay? We just going to shake our head and say, okay, okay? Because there's other tax consequences depending on if you're an LLC, partnership, or C corporation, all right? Cool. So to start the business, okay, and grow the business, we're going to first spend up to $10,000 in startup and organization costs. And we're going to take that as a deduction on our tax return, okay? And we're going to hire a bookkeeper to make sure that this is organized in our books appropriately, because that is the documentation that the IRS will call on if you were to ever get audited by the IRS. And a good business owner knows that it costs you more when you get audited than the cost of doing business when you hire a CPA or an accountant to do your books right the first time. All right? So first step is we're going to spend no more than $10,000 in the business to start the business. And then the second step is we're going to grow the business. We're going to grow the business. So revenue is what we care about. So the second step, once we've spent that $10,000, we are going to grow the business by trying to make $10,000 that first year in business to offset the money that we spent in business. That's the minimum amount that we need. All right? $1 over that $10,000 in spend is profit. Okay? It's profit. So our first milestone is to make our $10,000 back within that first 90 days of operating a business. So say, for instance, you started that business in December, you reported a loss on your income tax return for 2025. In 2026, within the first 90 days, we want to make that $10,000 back. That first 90 days is pivotal to determine whether you have a good business model or not, okay? Drop a 1 in the comments if you're picking up what I'm putting down. All right. Drop a 1 in the comments if you're picking up what I'm putting down. All right. So we went through how to start a business on paper for step 1. We're going through how to grow the business for step 2. How to grow the business for step 2. Good job, Suzanne. Light and love. Thank you for sticking in with me. Drop your questions in the comments if you have them. Step 2, we're talking about how to start the business based on tax deductions. And now we're in the how to grow the business based on revenue. So revenue, we want to make $10,000 within the first 90 days. And then after the first 90 days, now we want to scale the business. Now, scaling the business, we said that we go from red to black. We go from red to black, okay? Red to black. We go from losing money. Imagine that there's a horizontal line right here. And we are losing money, right? So there is a gap in a bar from here, from the top line to the bottom. That's how much money you lost in the first year. And that second year, there's movement to get you to above the line with margin. We call this a waterfall chart, okay? We call this a waterfall chart. So, you know, this was organization expenses. This is going to be net profit margin, all right? So we try to make more money and control our expenses that second year in business. So that walk is going to be, I made revenue, I spent some money, okay? And because I made revenue and I spent some money, here's where I am for my profit activity, okay? Okay? So there are different ways to scale the business based on industry standards. I don't want to spend too much time in that. With this, I'm going to say, hire my firm, the Money Council, to help you, right? The whole goal, and I'm not going to stop there because now we got to get into how do you succeed in business, which is the root word for succession. So we're going to talk about part 3 about how do you succeed in business and the different flavors for that. We're going to have a peach flavor, we're going to have a lemon flavor, and we're going to have a blueberry flavor. Peach, lemon, and blueberry. Okay? So, in that middle phase with growing and scaling the business, I would like for you to hire the Money Council. This is where you are working with the CFO advisor who has a team of bookkeepers, accountants, right, and estate planning attorneys. This is your Money Council, the Money Council, which is your personal board of directors for your growing family office, okay? That's what's in the middle. That's in the sweet spot, all right? And then how do you succeed in business, which is picking the fruit of what has grown, whether you have a blueberry bush, I think they grow on bushes, yeah, whether you have a blueberry bush, a lemon tree, or a peach tree, there are different ways to succeed in the business and harvest the fruit that has grown from starting the business on paper, scaling the business, and now picking the fruit to succeed from a succession plan. So I always tell people that in the middle is when you decide what your final stage is going to be. So remember, I said in the beginning, we're going to choose that very basic flavor of a bush or a tree, which is the LLC. In the middle is when you decide how you want to elect to be taxed at the federal level, right? And you want to do that within the first 5 years, okay? So whether you decide to be taxed as an S Corp, a C Corp, or a partnership, if you have more than one business partner, you can elect to be taxed as a partnership, okay? If it's just you, you can be elected to be taxed as a small corporation, so an S Corp, so subchapter corporation, or a closely held C corporation, okay? Those are the flavors that you can choose at the federal level, and each of them have different tax consequences, but it benefits you at the end when you decide to succeed in business, whether you decide to be a blueberry bush, a peach tree, or a lemon tree, okay? That blueberry bush, which is an LLC, that lemon tree is going to be a C corporation because it can grow all year round. And that peach tree, which requires very, specific language, is going to be the S corporation or partnership. Okay? So, in order to succeed in business, it depends on how your estate plan is set up, which requires you to have an attorney. All right? An operating agreement, which is attorney bound, and instructions that's within the operating agreement and estate planning documentation. Okay. You can decide to retire from the business, which means you hold on to the business and your children take it over for you to earn passive income through retirement. Okay. You can decide to sell a portion of the business and keep the rest. And this is for all flavors: blueberry, peach or lemon tree, blueberry bush, peach tree or lemon tree. These are the different options that you can do. So option 1, you can keep the business, retire, let your kids work in the business, and you earn passive retirement income. The second is you sell a part of the business, right? So maybe you sell 30% of the business to get that retirement cash flow early, and then you let the new business partner and your children operate the business, okay? And then the third is you sell the business altogether. You say, my kids don't want the business. I no longer can operate the business. This is where a lot of boomers are right now, right? They're deciding whether they are going to keep the business for their children, whether they're going to sell a portion of the business or sell it all, right? So that's how you succeed in business. In order for you to succeed in business and to have a succession plan in business, you have to start with the end in mind, right? So we went through part 1, how do you start the business on paper? Part 2, how do you grow and scale the business? And part 3, how do you succeed in business? And of course, these can all be master classes. That part 1 is wealth math, right? Wealth math is how do we put what we need on paper in order to grow the business and make money? How do we establish the wealth, right? Legally. Tax math is how do we grow the business and scale the business so that we don't look broke on paper, okay? And there are mindset principles between the two, but we're going to call that middle section tax math, okay? And all of these courses are being developed, and I can tell you where to sign up for each of these. And then the third tranche of how to succeed in business from a succession plan standpoint is going to be legacy math. So wealth minus taxes equal legacy. Wealth math minus tax math equals legacy math, right? So that is the whole blueprint of how we operate at the Money Council. And me as a Legacy CPA developed this after talking to over 220 clients. I did a whole experiment, y'all, basically. I did a scientific experiment where I had a hypothesis, okay, which was legacy. And I interviewed 220 people, donated over $40,000 in services, free services for 160 professionals. And then the rest paid discounted discovery fees for me to figure out the rest. And it was $25, y'all. I'm sorry if you missed that time in my life, but I was pouring out blessings from left and right where I wanted to, one, understand how people were living, and two, figure out a concept and a blueprint that can help people live well with their money. Okay? So drop a 1 in the comments if you are interested in learning how to get access to these courses and how to get access to my brain power beyond this live. I will be posting this live on the Money Council feed. But drop a 1 if you want to learn how to get access to these courses and my brain power past this live. Okay, cool. We got some 1s in the comments. Thank you, Yor Jerron. Thank you, Regina Black. Thank you, Suzanne Light and Love. All right, so how to get access to these courses, okay? There's 2 ways. If you are a licensed service professional, you are going to go to the Legacy CPAs, and I'm going to pin this for a little bit. Go to this after the call. Pin this comment. And you are going to sign up to collaborate with me through an affiliation agreement. See what you like on that page. That page has all of the information that you need. Everybody can go to this page to look at the media kit and to look at the businesses that you want to work with. DigiSuite Council is for those individuals who are in learning about wealth math, tax math, and legacy math. So you are going to go there to sign up for the wait list to be a part of Legacy Math Bootcamp 2.0. Okay? It's going to be in the center, and you're going to see the logo, DigiSuite Council. You're going to click on the button, okay, for that, and join the wait list on that website. That website is legacymathbootcamp.com if you want to go straight to the website. So that's if you want access to my brain power. That is a group coaching community. It is a group coaching community where you're exiting corporate and you need camaraderie to understand how to start the business and grow the business, okay? So that's the wealth math and the tax math is where we spend most of the time talking about mindset principles as well as like technical concepts for you to DIY your accounting. Okay? If you are a business coach and you're like, you operate a community and you want that community to learn with you based on the industry, then in the second part, right, I am a leader, right? I'm a loving leader where I can get into your group coaching business and you can hire me to be a speaker and pay me an honorarium. So that second part, I also have or will have a podcast called The Answer Key, which you can flip straight to the back of your Legacy Math workbook and listen to the answer key to understand how my mindset works related to developing my legacy math as a lifestyle, as an influencer. So you can go to the Legacy CPA here on Instagram and follow that page, right? That's where I give you behind the scenes of how I live from a personal blog standpoint. And I have the Answer Key podcast. So more to come on that, but that is where you would go to learn more. That's where you're going to enter your information. At the bottom, select drop down for me to collaborate with you within your group coaching space and, pay me an honorarium to speak to your group virtually or in person. I'm located in Georgia. If you want me to travel, you're going to have to foot the bill for me to travel wherever. And then the last place is where it all comes together, okay? So everyone is going to go to the legacycpas.com and read what's there and decide what's your lane. Okay, that first lane is for you to learn wealth math and tax math, to learn how to do your own accounting with support in a group coaching program with me as the teacher. That second part is hiring me as a loving leader and paying an honorarium for me to come and speak for group coaching, fireside chats, all the things. And then that third piece is you are like, listen, I can't do this no more. I'm ready to graduate this DIY thing. My community is ready to graduate this DIY thing. And that's where the third part come in. I am a due care counselor. So I am a CPA by trade, and I'm hiring other legacy CPAs to give you guys the best of the best at the Money Council. So that third order of business, if you are done DIYing, is you are going to go to themoneycouncil.com to learn about our programs called Financial Wellness. So this is like what we do for other people, right? And we take those legacy math concepts from wealth math and tax math and we implement them for you on a CFO advisory point of view. So think about, you're now handing the business over to us. You've learned those concepts to know. I call DigiSuite Counsel a way for you to get a master's without getting a master's, and it's for a fraction of the cost, right? And it's for you to learn the business language. It's a business literacy platform, and it's budget friendly and business friendly, and we call it Brindley, right? So first you need to learn the language, okay? And then you need to outsource the language to someone else so that you guys don't need translation. And that's where you go to themoneycouncil.com to talk to us first in a discovery. Or if you've graduated Brindley and you graduated DigiSuite Counsel, right, and you know the language, you can skip the line, right, and subscribe to whatever wellness program that you need for your business to get our brain power working for you. All right. That's all I got today. Drop a